Oliver Tambo was a celebrated South African anti-apartheid politician and activist who served as president of the African National Congress from 1967 to 1991. Due to his stroke in 1989, it was harder for him to fulfill his duties as president of the ANC, so in 1991, at the ANC's 48th National Conference, Nelson Mandela took over as president of the ANC. Oliver Reginald Keyzana Tambo, often referred to as Oliver Tambo, was born on 27 October 1917 in Kentela, Bizana, located in the Mpondoland, a Gauteng region of the Eastern Cape, South Africa. He was the son of Julia, the third wife of Mzimeni Tambo, who was the son of a farmer and worked as an assistant salesperson at a local trading store. Mzimeni, a traditionalist who valued the significance of Western education, had 4 wives and 10 children, and despite being illiterate, he managed to lead a comfortable life. Interestingly, Mzimeni converted to Christianity later in life, while Oliver's mother was a devout Christian from the outset. Following Oliver's birth, he was christened Keyzana after Kaiser William of Germany, reflecting his father's subtle resistance against British colonization in Mpondoland starting in 1878. As a child, Tambo was tasked with herding his father's cattle. This experience enabled him to learn vital skills such as hunting birds, engaging in stick fighting, of which he proved quite skilled, and crafting animal figures from clay. At the age of 6, Tambo's father informed him it was time to start school, which was about a kilometer from their home. Upon enrollment, his teacher explained that he needed a school name, leading his father to bestow upon him the name Oliver. After successfully completing Sub-A, he continued to another school in Mbobeni, where he first encountered formal music, igniting a passion that would last a lifetime. Determined to ensure his children received a quality education, Tambo's father relocated them to Luteke Methodist School, situated 16 kilometers from home. Occasionally, he would lend Tambo his horse to ease the traveling. To lighten the burden of distance, Tambo would stay with various families close to the school. In April 1928, he and his brother, Allen, enrolled at the Anglican Holy Cross Missionary School in Flagstaff. Although their father lacked the means to pay their fees, 2 English women, strangers to the boys, generously provided £10 annually to support their education. Additionally, one of Tambo's older brothers, working as a migrant laborer in Natal, now KwaZulu-Natal, contributed part of his earnings to help with expenses. It was here that Tambo's spiritual roots deepened as he was baptized into the Anglican faith. At Holy Cross, Tambo distinguished himself as an athlete, excelling in cricket and football, while also gaining recognition for his skill in stick fighting. Among his classmates was Fikile Bam, who would later be imprisoned on Robben Island for his activism with the non-European unity movement and eventually became a notable attorney. Despite Tambo's academic achievements, financial constraints forced him to repeat Standard 6 twice, even after passing it initially. In 1934, he ventured to St. Peter's Secondary School in Rossittenville, Johannesburg, with support from his former teacher, Miss Ted Marsh. At St. Peter's, Tambo engaged in various sports like football, tennis, and cricket, and participated in the school choir. During a holiday, at the age of 16, he and his friends established the Bizana Students Association, where he was elected secretary, with Kalodon Mda as chairperson. The BSA aimed to mobilize students during holidays for organized activities. Although offered the role of head prefect, Tambo graciously declined, opting for the position of deputy head prefect instead. Around this time, he made the significant decision to renounce alcohol entirely, a commitment he upheld throughout his life. Yet, personal tragedy struck as he lost both of his parents within a single year. In November 1936, Tambo sat for his junior certificate examination alongside both black and white students in the Transvaal, now Gauteng. Remarkably, he became one of the first two African students to achieve a first-class pass in this examination's history. He was awarded a 5-year scholarship of £30 per annum by the Transkei Bunga Assembly of Chiefs and a 2-year scholarship of £20 from the University of South Africa. Tambo subsequently took the matriculation examinations in December 1938, once again achieving a first-class pass. Initially aspiring to study medicine, Tambo faced barriers as no tertiary medical schools at the time accepted black students in that field. Instead, he chose to pursue sciences at the College of Fort Hare, where he met Nelson Mandela. Both were active members of the Student Christian Association. Tambo began teaching Sunday school during his first year and was part of a talented group of 8 students whose singing was broadcast by a local radio station in Grahamstown. However, he struggled with asthma, a condition he would deal with throughout his life. In 1941, an incident occurred involving a white staff member at the university kitchen who assaulted black women employees. An inquiry later cleared the assailant of wrongdoing. Influenced by Tambo's leadership, students organized a boycott of classes to protest the situation. By 1942, Tambo was elected chairperson of the Students' Committee of his residence, Bida Hall. After 3 years, he graduated with a degree in mathematics and physics from Fort Hare, subsequently enrolling for a diploma in higher education. During this period, Tambo spearheaded a project to rebuild a neglected tennis court on campus to provide students with recreational activities on Sunday. However, university authorities refused permission for Sunday tennis, citing it as a breach of faith. In response, Tambo and other students decided to discontinue cooperation with the university administration. This led to Tambo, as secretary of the Student Representative Council, being expelled alongside 45 other students, although most were readmitted after a few weeks. After his expulsion, Tambo returned to Nkantolo and sought teaching positions, facing rejection once employers learned of his expulsion. Thankfully, he was offered a teaching role in physics and mathematics at St. Peter's, his former school, where he excelled and was remembered as a captivating educator. During this time, he also became part of an emerging network of young African elites in Johannesburg. In 1942, Tambo crossed paths with Walter Sisulu, an estate agent whose office was a nexus for young intellectuals. It was in this environment that he connected with other progressive thinkers such as Anton Lembede and Jordan Kubane. Sisulu welcomed Tambo into his home on weekends. Together with Walter Sisulu, Mandela, and other young leaders, Tambo engaged with Dr. A.B. Xuma, the president of the African National Congress. Their discussions centered on revitalizing the ANC and making it more accessible to the general public. Informally involved in drafting key documents for the ANC, Tambo contributed to the African Claims in South Africa document, which the ANC adopted at the 1943 Bloemfontein Conference. The idea of a national group of young men soon crystallized into the African National Congress Youth League. By December 1943, the ANC Youth League received formal acceptance from its ANC at its Congress in Botshabelo, and by September 1944, it held its first official inauguration. Tambo was appointed secretary, with Anton Lembede as president, A.P. Mda as vice president, and Sisulu as treasurer. The year 1948 marked a turning point as the National Party came into power, ramping up discriminatory laws against Africans, Indians, and Coloureds, entrenching apartheid further. During this time, Tambo began studying via correspondence. Faced with increasingly oppressive laws against disenfranchised populations, Tambo, as the ANC Youth League scribe, helped develop a program of action inspired by other organizations' campaigns, including the civil disobedience tactics of the 1946 Passive Resistance Campaign and the strategies employed by the Communist Party of South Africa. At the ANC conference in 1948, the ANC Youth League presented its documents, but Dr. Xuma resisted confrontational strategies. The ANC Youth League decided not to support Dr. Xuma's re-election unless he endorsed their program of action. Though the conference adopted this program, Xuma opposed the boycott tactics suggested by ANC Youth League members. Tambo Nsumu Khehle then persuaded Dr. James S. Moroka to accept the presidency of the ANC, which led to his election and the official adoption of the program of action. By 1948, Tambo was completing his law articles with a firm of white lawyers, Max Kramer & Touch. At the end of 1949, he joined Solomon Kowalski's company. His first notable case involved a land rights dispute among the Bafokeng people in Rustenburg, Western Transvaal, now Northwest Province. Tambo's knowledge of customary law played a crucial role in successfully resolving the case. Simultaneously, he continued his studies through correspondence with the University of South Africa, often studying by candlelight. On July 24, 1951, Tambo qualified as an attorney. With Mandela, now also a lawyer, they established a partnership, creating the legal firm of Mandela and Tambo, situated in Chancellor House, Johannesburg. Their law firm became widely recognized, attracting clients from far and wide. After Mandela was banned in 1951, Tambo managed the majority of the firm's workload. In 1953, when Chief Albert Luthuli was elected president of the ANC, Tambo succeeded Walter Sisulu as national secretary, as Sisulu had been banned by the government due to his leading role in the 1952 Defiance campaign. Once the campaign was halted, the ANC organized a meeting of white supporters where Tambo, Sisulu, and Bram Fischer addressed the audience about the campaign's aims and how various communities had reacted. The impact of Tambo's eloquent speech led to the formation of the Congress of Democrats in 1953, with Fischer as chairperson. Later, during a visit to South Africa by Canon John Collins of St. Paul's Cathedral, a prominent supporter of anti-apartheid movements, Tambo, alongside Father Trevor Huddleston, brought him to meet ANC leaders, including Sisulu. During this time, Tambo expressed aspirations to become an ordained minister, a dream that would ultimately remain unfulfilled when Huddleston returned to England in 1956. At the ANC Congress in 1954, Tambo was appointed Secretary General. That same year, he was subjected to a banning order from the state, although he continued working behind the scenes as a member of the National Action Committee, contributing to the drafting of the Freedom Charter, which emerged from extensive national consultations ahead of the Congress of the People in June 1955. Due to his restrictions, Tambo was unable to attend the COP and had to observe its proceedings from the home of Stanley Lowland in Kliptown. In 1955, Tambo became engaged to Adelaide Francis Chugudu, a nurse from Baragwana Hospital. Although their wedding was slated for December 22, 1956, it nearly faced cancellation after Tambo was detained on treason charges on December 5, 1956. Following the granting of bail to the accused, the wedding proceeded as planned, and Tambo and Chief Albert Luthuli were later acquitted among 155 ANC members in the well-known 1956 treason trial. In 1957, Duma Nokwe took over Tambo's position as Secretary General of the ANC, while Tambo ascended to the role of Deputy President. By early 1958, Tambo confided in his wife that the ANC had intentions for him and his family to go into exile. By this time, they had 3 children, Tembi, Dali, and Zelane. During the ANC's December 1958 conference, Tambo was appointed to chair the event. A faction of former ANC members known as the Africanists attempted to disrupt the conference. However, Tambo maintained control and managed to peacefully expel dissenters. The Africanists subsequently separated from the ANC, ultimately forming the Pan-Africanist Congress. Years later, Tambo would publish a critique of the PAC, condemning them for their divisive tactics. In 1959, Tambo headed the ANC's Constitutional Commission, which recommended greater constitutional recognition for both the ANC's Women's League and the ANC Youth League, endorsing principles of non-racialism and the Freedom Charter among other significant topics. This constitutional revision eventually became known as the Tambo Constitution. Throughout this period, Tambo bore the additional burden of managing both his political duties and the operations of the law firm independently, as Mandela remained embroiled in legal battles. During this tumultuous period, Tambo began engaging with several sympathizers across the globe. Following the tragic Sharpeville massacre on March 21, 1960, Tambo undertook a significant mission in exile to rally international support for the South African liberation struggle. Just days later, on March 27, Tambo was driven across the Botswana border by Ronald Segal, the editor of the liberal publication Africa South. In Botswana, Tambo's telegrams to the United Nations were intercepted and handed over to the South African government, making his stay increasingly dangerous as he lived in constant fear of abduction and repatriation. Yusuf Dadoo, the leader of the South African Communist Party, was also in Botswana after fleeing into exile. Frin Ginwala arranged essential travel documents and transportation for Tambo, Dadoo, and Segal through the Indian consul in Kenya. The three men boarded a chartered plane to Tanganyika, now Tanzania. After a brief overnight stay in Malawi, they arrived in Dar es Salaam, where Ginwala greeted them and facilitated a meeting with Julius Nyerere. Tambo then flew from Tanganyika to Nairobi, where he received additional travel papers from the Indian government. Shortly thereafter, he journeyed to Tunisia at the invitation of the General Secretary of the World Assembly Youth. This marked Tambo's inaugural speech delivered outside South Africa, during which he clarified the ANC's position to the President of Tunisia. His travels then took him to Ghana, where he met with Kwame Nkrumah to discuss the dire circumstances in South Africa. On May 1, 1960, Tambo made his first Northern European visit to Denmark upon the invitation of the Prime Minister. He communicated the history of South Africa in meetings in Copenhagen, urging support from trade unions for the ANC's boycott initiatives. His subsequent trip to London reunited him with friends Father Huddleston and Kenan Collins. In London, he convened with ANC exiles, Dadoo, and their representatives from the PAC, with the objective of unifying various liberation movement leaders battling against the oppressive South African regime. Tambo then flew to Egypt, seeking the support of Colonel Gamal Abdel Nasser. His journey continued to Ethiopia, where he engaged with the Non-European United Front, a coalition of ANC and PAC exiles unified by a common cause. While in Ethiopia, Tambo was invited to address the inaugural Conference of African Heads of State. Meanwhile, arrangements were made for Adelaide and the children to relocate to Swaziland, then to Ghana, and ultimately to London. They were aided by Oliver Tedley, a farmer who helped them cross into Swaziland. After 6 frustrating weeks, Adelaide and the children finally made it to Botswana, from where they arrived in Ghana 3 weeks later. Subsequently, on September 15, 1960, the family reached London, where they initially stayed with fellow South African exile, James Phillips. As Tambo prepared to address the United Nations in New York, his family settled into a flat where Adelaide found employment as a nurse at St. George's Hospital. Juggling the night shifts often meant leaving the children unattended, locked in for the night. As Tambo's commitment to the ANC consumed his time, he had very little opportunity to be with his family. Adelaide faced relentless hardships, working between 12 to 20 hours a day to support her family, all while opening their home to incoming ANC members arriving in the UK. With limited funds, Tambo really touched his ANC allowance of £2 a week, saving what he could for Christmas gifts and cards for his children. In October 1962, a consultative meeting led by Govan Mbeki occurred in Botswana to affirm the ANC's National Executive Committee mandate. This designated Tambo as the head of the ANC's diplomatic mission, tasked with communicating the situation in South Africa to the world. As he led the ANC's mission in exile, Tambo focused on overseeing the influx of ANC exiles, managing MK military camps, raising funds, establishing ANC offices globally, ensuring the welfare of exiled cadres, and engaging with the international community through consensus and collective decision-making. In 1961, he accompanied Chief Luthuli to Stockholm for the Nobel Peace Prize ceremony. In January 1962, he met with Mandela and Joe Matthews in Dar es Salaam, learning about the decision to launch MK and the necessity for cooperation with the SACP. Together, Mandela and Tambo devised a new strategy for the external mission to build support for MK. Their travels took them across several North African nations before returning to London, where Mandela met key British officials and politicians. During this time, Tambo also led an ANC delegation at the formation of the Organization of African Unity in Ethiopia in May 1963. Tragically, in July 1963, the majority of the MK High Command was arrested, and with the incarceration of the Rivonia trialists, Tambo was compelled to step up and lead MK during an incredibly challenging period. In 1964, Oliver Tambo set out on a mission to rally international support for the African National Congress by visiting the former USSR in China. The USSR offered £300,000 to assist the ANC in 1964, a decision Tambo clarified did not imply allegiance to Soviet ideologies. Simultaneously, he sought to cultivate relationship with Western nations to secure broader backing. By 1964, Tambo had relocated to Dar es Salaam, where he took on the role of head of Umkhonto weSizwe, the ANC's military wing, and shared accommodations with fellow ANC members. During 1963 and 1964, Tambo delivered several impactful speeches to introduce the ANC to a global audience, notably addressing the United Nations in October 1963. His passionate appeal for the release of political prisoners resonated strongly, leading to the adoption of the UN Resolution 18th on October 11, 1963. Tambo's address earned him a standing ovation and marked a significant moment in the ANC's international advocacy. It was also at the UN where Tambo forged a lasting friendship with E.S. Reddy, an Indian national who served as Secretary of the Special Committee on Apartheid, becoming a vital ally in the ANC struggle. In addition to gaining support from the UN, Tambo collaborated with the London anti-apartheid movement, which played a crucial role in organizing an international conference on economic sanction against South Africa in 1964. Following the Rivonia trial, Tambo convened a consultative meeting in Lusaka on January 8, 1965, as the growing number of ANC branches abroad made communication increasingly complex. He negotiated with both the Organization of African Unity, now African Union, and the Tanzanian government to secure land for establishing a military camp in Dar es Salaam. By 1965, he had also established a second camp in newly independent Zambia. MK began collaborating with the Zimbabwe People's Revolutionary Army to infiltrate the then Rhodesia, today Zimbabwe. In 1968, Tambo accompanied MK groups on reconnaissance missions along the Zambezi River, even sleeping outdoors with the operatives. He named this group the Luthuli Detachment in honor of Chief Albert Luthuli, who tragically lost his life in a railway accident in July 1967. The Wonke campaign marked the ANC's inaugural significant military operation, but despite some victories, the group ultimately had to retreat under pressure from the combined forces of South Africa and Rhodesia. During this tumultuous period, Tambo faced immense stress that impacted his health. Criticism emanated from within the ranks, as members raised concerns over military, social, and political strategies. Following the Wonke campaign, a memorandum from Chris Hani's detained group in Botswana criticized senior ANC leaders and accused Tambo of neglecting democratic principles, an issue that weighed heavily on him. In response, Tambo convened a consultative conference to address the frustrations of ANC members in exile. The Morogoro Conference took place on April 25, 1969, with approximately 700 ANC members, including MK fighters and Congress Alliance partners. Tambo opened the event, emphasizing its consultative nature. However, his initial proposal to resign in the face of personal attacks created chaos. Ultimately, he was persuaded to stay and was unanimously re-elected as president. A new executive was formed, and Tambo led the Revolutionary Council, which included prominent figures like Yusuf Dadoo, Reg September, and Joe Slovo. After the 1976 student uprising, Tambo re-evaluated organizational strategies and reached out to the Tanzanian government for land to establish a school for exiles, named after Solomon Mahlangu, a guerrilla executed for exectivism. He also recruited Paulo Jordan to develop Radio Freedom in Lusaka, a platform through which he actively communicated ANC messages. Although Tambo attempted to strengthen ties with groups like the Black Consciousness Movement, setbacks arose following the police brutal treatment of BCM leaders, including Steve Biko. Tambo also met with various homeland leaders, notably Chief Mangosuthu Buthelezi of the Inkatha Freedom Party. In 1978, he led a delegation to Vietnam to learn from their struggle, which later informed the establishment of a political military strategy council aimed at increasing mass mobilization against apartheid. Demonstrating a commitment to women's rights, Tambo initiated a code of conduct ensuring respect and protection for women within the ANC, seeking to eliminate abuse. Meanwhile, between 1983 and 1985, MK camps in Angola experienced significant unrest, with 2 revolts occurring as young cadres expressed frustrations over deployment delays and deteriorating living conditions. Tambo established the Stewart Commission to investigate these issues, regularly visiting the camps to address the concerns and motivating the cadres. The signing of the Nkomati Accord between South Africa and Mozambique in 1984 prompted further unrest within the camps as frustrations over need for military engagement grew. Tambo emphasized the importance of diplomatic approaches during these turbulent times, leading to yet another ANC consultative conference in Kabwe, Zambia in 1985 to address the pressing issues raised by members. Throughout the 1980s, Tambo maintained strong connection with both civil society and the corporate sector, notably meeting with major American multinationals to convey the ANC's position. As he expanded the ANC's diplomatic, corporate, cultural, and sporting outreach, the South African regime escalated its repressive actions. On January 8, 1985, Tambo delivered a historic speech urging South Africans to render South Africa ungovernable, calling for alternative structures to replace apartheid as social unrest grew. Later that year, Tambo engaged with a high-powered delegation of industry leaders from South Africa. During this dialogue, Tambo updated them on the ANC's position and addressed their concerns. This effort was followed by a meeting with the National African Confederation of Commerce, showcasing Tambo's commitment to building bridges, even with those in the business community. In October 1985, he testified before the UK's Foreign Affairs Committee in London, encountering challenging questions from lawmakers. The subsequent year, the Commonwealth responded by sending an eminent persons group to investigate conditions in South Africa. In 1986, Tambo called for the establishment of an alternative education system and for the unbanning of the Congress of South African Students, emphasizing the necessity for continued advocacy in the face of repression. In 1987, Tambo appointed a high-powered commission of ANC legal people to draw up a constitution to reflect the kind of country that the ANC wanted for the future. He also said in those meetings, often guiding the meetings, Tambo had consistently advocated support for a multi-party democracy and an entrenched Bill of Rights. Also in 1987, Tambo together with others conceived and headed a top-secret covert mission by MK known as Operation Vula. Tambo chose the operatives to infiltrate into the country to work underground, establishing networks and arms storage. In 1988, Tambo called an emergency meeting of the ANC's Political Military Council to determine the position of MK operations in South Africa. In spite of the South African Defence Force massacring ANC members in Lesotho, Botswana, and Mozambique, Tambo insisted that the ANC should maintain the moral high ground and avoid the loss of civilian life in its operations. This was in response to, especially when MK struck at two soft targets, fast food outlets in the country. In 1988, Tambo appointed a president's team on negotiations to draw up the ANC's position and approach to the negotiations, drawing from viewpoints from the exiles and the mass democratic movement in the country. In the meantime, the South African establishment was secretly making moves to approach the ANC for negotiations through exploratory meetings. Following extensive discussions with the frontline state leaders, Tambo led and worked closely with the ANC team which drafted the Harare Declaration. The declaration acknowledged that there may be an opportunity for negotiations with the South African regime with the end of apartheid in mind. It explained the climate and principles which had to be created before negotiations could begin. Pressure and exhaustion took its toll on Tambo, and in 1989, he suffered a severe stroke that resulted in him losing his speech. Following his stroke, he was rushed from Lusaka on Tolly Rowland executive plane on the order of President Kenneth Kaunda of Zambia to Harley Street in London. Rowland also paid for the medical treatment. Against the advice of his physician and the NEC, Tambo continued his punishing work schedule, traveling on ANC business. He suffered another stroke in 1991 whilst undergoing medical treatment in Sweden. Again, Rowland flew him back to London where he was treated. With the unbanning of the ANC in 1990 and the process of transition already underway, the entire Tambo family flew back to South Africa in December 1990. However, Tambo was unable to address the welcoming crowd at the airport due to his loss of speech. A welcome rally was organized at Orlando Stadium, attended by a crowd of 70,000 people. At the ANC conference in Durban in 1991, Tambo declined to stand for any position. The position of national chairman was created in his honor. Nelson Mandela was elected president of the organization. In 1991, Tambo was installed as Chancellor of the University of Fort Hare. In February 1993, he opened a large international conference in Johannesburg, chaired by Thabo Mbeki. Foreign dignitaries and representatives of anti-apartheid movements filled the hall to listen to Tambo thank their countries and organizations for their contributions in helping to end apartheid. Despite his illness, Tambo came to the ANC office in Johannesburg every day and still addressed public meetings of organizations. During the early hours of the morning of 24 April 1993, Oliver Reginald Tambo passed away after a heart attack. He was honored with a state funeral where scores of friends, supporters, colleagues, and heads of state bade him farewell. His epitaph reads, in his own words, "It is our responsibility to break down barriers of division and create a country where there will be neither whites nor blacks, just South Africans, free and united in diversity."